I'm sorry, you guys. I'm getting annoyed with this now. I don't know why it does this randomly now sometimes. Like right before the stream starts, it'll mute your stream. I'm not clicking that mute button. I'm getting annoyed with that. Uh, I'm going to stop using StreamYard. For the StreamYard people out there, you guys need to stop with this new thing where sometimes your video is just muted at the beginning. Like that either needs to be that way all the time or none of the time. It can't just be happening randomly some of the time. That just happened the other day too. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm annoyed with that though. I do not know why some of these streams it's just like clicking the mute button for you. But that's happened now twice in recent days, and it happened like once about a week earlier. So this is about the third time this happened now. I don't have my I don't have my cell phone in the room. Or maybe I do. Maybe it's buried over here. Sometimes you just got to like put your cell phone in the other room so you can like get some work done. Cell phone, it's always buzzing and notifying. But yeah, anyway, if you're not a lip reader, you probably missed the first 2.5 minutes of my video. I'm tempted to just start over again, but then, ugh, that takes time too. Okay, just from now on, I have to make sure it's not on some kind of mute setting for God knows what reason when you start the video, which it never ever used to do before. So here's what I was saying. Just to rewind, take two. Take two. We're almost 4.5 minutes into the video. I'll just chop off the beginning of this. You can do that. Might take like 12 hours to update in the video editor, but you can chop off time from video. So anyway, take two. Police tactics, big focus. CNN's all about it today. They're having politicians weigh in on what's going on in the U.S., why these protests are happening at universities, why young people are taking this position when maybe if they were older and wiser, they'd be taking this position, which is the position the media is programming. Again, for years, I noticed they don't say it as much anymore, but just growing up in the 80s and 90s and even earlier 2000s, the phrase back to your regularly scheduled programming, the news would always say that, back to your regularly scheduled programming. People are like, well, yeah, that's the program. This show's on at 5 p.m. every night, and I love to watch this show. It's like, yeah, that's true. But what about the reverse side of that programming? You start to see how, you get a nation of 300 million adults, and in the Pepsi, Coca-Cola era, if you will. If you guys don't know about Pepsi and Coke, look at all the companies they own. Soda companies, man. They just hook people on sugar water. It was that simple. They got so powerful off selling sugar water, the little secret flavoring to make them. But anyway, just this era of companies that own all these other food companies and television companies, you just see how there's this homogenous society that becomes more and more with each passing year. It's like more and more people are walking around with a Coca-Cola t-shirt on and at least 50 pounds overweight, if not more than that. And it just becomes so common. And it's so sad now to see it in the children. Because when I started elementary school in 1988. I was 5 years old in 88, born in 83. I was born July 21st, 83. And I started kindergarten in 88, so I was on the younger side of that class. Some kids were like born in September in 82. They were almost a whole year older than me, but that's like the way it was for school cutoffs. Some people were at one extreme end, I was at the end, the last ones to get in. But I was just saying from that point forward, you've just seen people get bigger and bigger. But when I was a child, there were almost no overweight children in school, almost none. I remember my elementary school, there's probably 500 students, K through 5, kindergarten through 5th grade. And maybe out of the whole school, there was one kid that was fat, maybe two. I can remember one. And so when I think back about elementary school, I sadly still remember the first and last name of the kid that everyone bullied. And I used to stick up for that kid. I felt bad for him. I wonder what happened to that kid. But anyway, the point is, just as time's gone on, as these companies, Pepsi and Coke, have bought up even more companies and even more companies. They're a lot like their sugar water. They just have more and more sugar in the food. Everybody's eating all this sugar and all this processed food all the time. They're all turned into the same TV, getting the same information. They're all looking the same way, fatter and fatter, and just getting dumber and dumber as well, and just all just sounding just to a point where nearly half the people in the nation think Donald Trump is going to save us. The same guy who walked us into the scam from Switzerland, where the bankers are from, and then signed off on $6.5 trillion in debt that will equal that in profits over time with all the interest we, the taxpayers, will pay. But anyway, sorry, because I lost my original intro. I'm trying to remember what I already said and didn't. And the point I really wanted to make with this stream is America has, not just America, it's the world too. It's not just the United States again. It's just like George H.W. Bush said back in the early 90s. It's a new world order. And he gave one of those new world order speeches September 11th, 1990, exactly 11 years to the day of 9/11 happening in New York, the 11th state, where the World Trade Centers looked like an 11, and it was flight AA11 to start it all off on the 11th of the month, and on and on and on. But anyway, for all this time, I'm talking about just how things have changed, but also what hasn't changed for all this time is there's just always been this push to have so much sympathy and care for the people of Israel, but then other groups don't get anywhere near that respect, right? Like it's okay to say, you know what, these people deserve our respect and our care and our help because they went through this atrocity back in the World War times. So that's why we give them all this care and concern, and you could say love and financial support. That could be okay if, and it's a big if, because this is the thing that's not happening that makes it really not okay. But it'd be okay if we did the same thing for other groups. Like what we do in the U.S. now is we bait black people. Like Gavin Newsom, the Jesuit, comes out and says, I'm thinking about giving every black person in California reparations, and it's going to be a big old fat check. And right away, you're like, okay, they're never going to do that unless they really do plan to purposefully destroy the state, taking on all this crazy amount of debt when they already have all these debt obligations. But it's just kind of a sick joke, right? It's a carrot in front of the horse. The carrot in front of the horse trick. But they keep doing it to us, too. They don't just do it to racial groups. They do it to religious groups. They figure out how to divide us all into groups and then purposefully provoke our groups and get us to point our finger at another group. You know what I mean? Somebody might be listening. They're like, well, Zach, you're always talking about the Jesuits. I am. But again, that is true. That's a group. So you could say I'm hypocritical in that regard. But I am showing how there's this long, hilly probable that it is them that's behind the 26-letter English alphabet that was standardized at the same time the calendar came out, and like what I teach about day after day. And by the way, if you're new here and you have no idea what I teach about day after day, I've been teaching about for a decade. So I speak as if, the person here knows what I'm talking about. We'll get into that later. But before we even get into what I talk about, which is just, in a way, just too complicated for a lot of people, what's not too complicated to understand are all the things I'm bringing up so far about, again, how certain groups are getting love while others aren't. And I can't remember if I was saying this when I was muted, but I was making the point that after 9/11, I was 18 years old when 9/11 happened. I was in college. And back then, I was at Arizona State University in Arizona. At the time, a very conservative Republican state, which has supposedly changed based on what they report on TV for voting. That ritual they just had down there in Arizona, 160 years overturned. And again, now you can get the abortion in the state within that time period where a developing baby's heart beats at 160 beats per minute. It's all symbolic what they do in this nation. Anyway, I'm getting tangential again, but the point is, there's certain things that like Americans could actually visibly see every day. If they just thought about it, maybe just really thought about it, they might want to change their behavior. And then there's other things that we really need to recognize. And we do need to say, you know what, federal government, we do pay a lot of money to you. And maybe it's not right that so much of this tax money that, and we give you a lot, goes to these certain groups that we're told to love so much when we've got all these groups, even right here in the US right now, that have been suffering, communities suffering for decades, more than 50 years. No federal intervention, really hardly at all. Federal government might point to like, oh, what about when we helped out with those 3 streetlights? It's like, oh, I stand corrected. Thank you for helping with the street lights that were out. That actually was helpful. It is nice to have your streets lit, but again, seriously, that's your rebuttal in light of how that's your only intervention in the last 60 years versus hundreds of billions for places that most Americans could never identify on a map. But again, you guys, people need to realize why this is. And again, it's all right in front of our face. Presidents gloating about a new world order. 11 years to the day of it happening with the World Trade Centers. And then all these nations participating, the coalition of the willing, over 60 involved in the war on terror. It just all the stuff they presented to us. But in that time, again, I'm sorry, guys. This stream, I cannot remember what things I said at the beginning of the stream from when I was muted. So the problem with being unscripted. But again, at the beginning of the war, I was pointing out, or right after 9/11, I was a freshman in college in 2001. I was 2 weeks into college when September 11th, 2001 happened. And a routine story in the news back then that didn't get a whole lot of emotional attachment from the media, just kind of reported as it was, which is pretty much how media really should be, just presenting information that could be relevant to the audience, that could be helpful in their life in one way or another, without the bias and the opinion and the how you should feel about it and what you should think about it, which is how a lot of our news comes today. It's highly opinionated and packaged and designed to make you think a certain way. And again, we're seeing that unfold at the nation's universities by the age-old pattern where that one certain group of people gets way more love. And if you talk about them, things can get real violent with the authorities real fast. But anyway, back when I was a freshman in college, a common story was shop owners. Again, there's kind of a true stereotype, and I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just that I see it as just like a cultural thing that within this culture, they learned that you could go to America and have great success with this niche. It just makes sense to me how it happened this way. I mean, there's some truth to stereotypes, and it doesn't mean they're bad things. But a lot of Middle Eastern looking type people do have corner stores, small markets, busy places, 7-Elevens and whatnot. And again, I don't find that to be a racist thing. I mean, The Simpsons make a joke about it, right? The corner store owner in there. And then after 20 some years of that show running, all of a sudden there were mainstream headlines about how maybe that's racist. It's like things don't have to be racist. You can just say, listen, that culture figured out how to come over to America and have a great life running the corner store. There's something to be learned there. Americans need to work together like this. Imagine how successful we could all be here just born into America. We don't have to come across an ocean and leave our homeland and learn a new language and figure out how to set up a business and jump through all the American red tape. But again, a lot of, for whatever reason it is, Middle Eastern men have figured out how to make that business. And what's funny is when I was in Buffalo, I learned from a lot of the local people there, they actually don't like, though, how the Middle Eastern people have come in and taken over all their corner stores because they feel like they kind of also don't like the people in the community and they like to exploit them. And if that is true, I mean, that is sad. But again, that's happening in this world on so many levels because we have this media that's always programming us to love certain groups while not care about certain others. And again, in this media that teaches us to love and support and donate to Israel because of what happened to them in the world wars, this media has also for years been the same media where almost every night there was some scary story on the news. It hasn't been this way for years now, but growing up like in the 80s and even early 90s, going back to the Rodney King beating times, the news almost every night was trying to scare you with some vague crime in the community, blamed on a black male between ages 18 and 55, who could be between 5'10 and 6'4. It's like, come on, man. Every night like this, it could be like any adult black male between all these different sizes. That was your regularly scheduled programming. And again, we talk about, if you guys are new to my work, I have a book out there called Letters and Numbers. I teach about how the media works by this Kabbalistic code of letters and numbers every day, literally contriving the news. I've been here for over a decade, proving my point, or at least waiting for somebody to come and show me why I'm wrong. We've been talking about a lot with the Colombia protests. But yeah, again, my work can be too complicated for a lot of people. And really, just to get Americans to identify things. Is America getting fatter and rapidly? Is America on way more pharmaceuticals and rapidly? I mean, there's true answers to these questions. Can both of these things be bought at the grocery store? I mean, is it because a lot of Americans are shopping at the grocery store and subject to the only products available? Again, everybody does have a produce section, right? But even produce is getting sketchy with all the pesticides and rumors of certain things going on, pills and whatnot. I mean, it's sad that we have to live in a time and experience the things we are and the concerns we have to that we do have to. Again, as a consumer, as somebody who shops at the grocery store with a conscience, you have to really think about what is being done to this food in here. Is it even clean? Is it even kosher, as some people would say? You start to think about how our ancestors years ago, agricultural people, you know, agriculture is what allowed humanity to advance and create society, a way to have a constant supply of food in a given geographic region where you could set up a city. And then with that could come stability and business and government and all these things. But there was a time when that advancement for humanity with agriculture, these other things did just exist that I mentioned, but they weren't as powerful as they were once upon a time. They didn't have all the technology that they do have now to severely enhance and advance their methods. Anyway, I still don't think I have to keep reminding because I don't think I finished emphasizing the point that I'm really trying to make. It's hard because you have to be careful with your words. Everything is censorship related. YouTube wants to take you down for everything. You're not even trying to say anything that's hate speech. Next thing you know, your video is taken down for hate speech because apparently you didn't give enough of the love to the quota for the group it needs to be for. But yeah, again, just when these corner store owners were killed in the news after 9/11, it'd be reported, and it wasn't like they were encouraging people to do that, but there just wasn't really any emotion attached to it. So you get the story, it's there, but then say, in the next headline, it's a story that they really want you to care about. Anything Israel related was something you needed to care about. And again, right after 9/11 happened, the leader of Israel, Ehud Barak, Ehud Barak was the leader of Israel at the time, kind of like Barack Obama, who became president after Bush. And again, that was after nearly a decade of them scaring us with the name Osama and Saddam Hussein. Osama, Saddam Hussein, they were often both associated with 9/11, even though I didn't want to get into it. But it was like, okay, so really, a decade ago in 98, Tupac puts out the song Changes after his death. That was this big hit song that they still play on the radio to this day. And one of the big lines in that song was, "We still ain't seen a black president. Changes." Then exactly a decade later, Obama's running on hope and change. But his name was Barack Hussein Obama. And of course, Fox News, founded by Republicans, like to always emphasize his full name. But it was interesting. It's like, yeah, that is kind of weird that after all this fear mongering of these names, the guy who's like looking like he's going to win the elections, Barack Hussein Obama. And I was already onto the idea that a big game was being played with us in America. Again, this is why we got to get people to have real conversations about what's going on, because if all of us had experienced what the person we're looking at had experienced, we'd have a similar perspective to them, because their perspective has been shaped by the things they've heard in their lifetime, the things they've seen, the things they know about. But if people can get together and figure out how to have honest conversations and share information to reach the right conclusion for the community. This is how I meant to start the video. I was talking about how, again, society needs to learn how to come to the common ground that all human beings share, who need clean food, clean water, a safe place to live, a place where warfare isn't breaking out. Sweet Lady, Sweet Lady is from Burma. now known as Myanmar, with the world's longest ongoing civil war. Remember, things got even crazier there a few years ago at the start of the year when the military overthrew its government. You know, what their country looks like now could be an eventual America. Just like the same thing that's going on in Burma has gone on in other places of the world in wartime. And sometimes those wars can last over 50 years, like it has in Burma. We started taking refugees in the U.S. from Iraq and these countries that we went into after 9/11, Afghanistan, Burma, all in 2008, as Bush was leaving office and Obama was coming in. Again, these things aren't an accident, you guys. Think about it. After America scared its population, making Islam seem like this dangerous extremist terrorist group where it was so common and there were so many killers around the corner, then they brought a lot of people in here as refugees because of what the wars that we and the coalition of the willing did to those regions. So anyhow, I do have a call-in number up here on the screen. If you guys want to call in, it is a call board, so it's first come, first serve. When I'm done rambling, if I can figure out how to make my point after starting myself off with the big mute for 3 minutes, I would like to take some calls. But yeah, really what I want the focus of the stream to be about is how to create a conversation with America as it is now about the reality of this country we're living in, where we're being taken to. People really should think about children. You know, now even I have a little one coming on the way, and I've always talked about, you know, the reason to get invested in what's going on in the world is so children don't have to grow up in something that's even much worse than what you don't like right now. Because that's been the progression, that things just keep getting worse. So I'm a logical person. I know at some point all things change. It could get back on a positive path, but there's going to have to be a correction to make it go positive. And usually that takes an action. So again, if people got the right information, could they then be willing to take an action? And then if humanity figured out how to cooperate and find common ground and work together, could humanity work together to undo what's doing? Because you know what I see every time they have these protests? And again, I'm very much this way too. You know, like when Occupy was going on, I'd be out there talking to people. I wasn't down with the whole communist thing of Occupy, but I was down with our nation's sold out and corrupt and big money has way too much influence. That was the conversation I understood back in the days of Occupy. But yeah, they get people to come out to their planned events, and Occupy was one of them. And like I talked about, the Occupy May Day protest 2012 was the one that got all the news attention in Seattle because of all the destruction. And I was right there to see it firsthand, and how it was infiltrators that came in that set up the destructive scenes for the news. And again, that's why humanity needs to understand that they're doing the same stuff over and over. When there's a big protest that the media is letting you know about, because they want to get more bodies out there, they want to get more energy in it. And a lot of time it's a setup to bring about the climatic moment, just like how they had with the crackdowns at these universities, the raid at Colombia, 56 years to the day of the raid on the anti-Vietnam protest. You know, and those people in history are proven right. The anti-Vietnam protesters, no one would say they were wrong. There were no positive outcomes from the war, and a lot of people died, and a lot of money was spent. And a lot of people came back with all kinds of trauma and drug addiction. See, you guys, 1968, right? Colombia had the anti-Vietnam raid in 1968, 56 years to the day of 2024. Same day, April 30th, they raid the same Hamilton Hall, but now it's protesting the war in Gaza as opposed to the war in Vietnam. And again, the thing I teach about is the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words. It's known as gematria traditionally in Hebrew, isopsophy in Greek. It's the idea of coding numbers into words. Vietnam equates to 84, which is the special number. And you might recall when Netanyahu declared war, he waited. The attack was October 7th, the anniversary of the U.S. invading Afghanistan after 9/11. So that was the day of the attack, but then Netanyahu waited until the next day, Sunday, October 8th, the day to declare war. And we talked about why it mattered that he did that on the day leaving 84 days left in the year. A very special number. It connects to the Jesuits, the Masons, Zionism, and how all these things are related in history. And again, that's the part though that the gematria thing. That's why I just realized, like, I'm always going to teach gematria and the knowledge, and I am working on this little children's book series. I'm trying to figure out how to integrate a character and a storyline. Because again, these children's books I'm writing, they are for children, but they could work just as well for any adult. That's the beauty of them. But yeah, I just realized maybe more time just needs to be spent on just basic conversations, getting people to come out or wake up to the idea that, yeah, there really is something wrong and I need to take a action myself. Because a lot of people, if they just look in the mirror, they're going to see that they're the victim of this agenda we're living out. They're going to realize they're the ones that have been addicted to all these soda drinks and they are eating all this processed food and all this junk food and they do have all these health problems and they are on all these pills. And I don't think anybody, if they, some, you might say, well, some people might realize that and they'd still keep doing it because, they're lazy and it's easy and it's comfortable to them and they don't even care enough to make their life go longer. That could be true about some people, but if they had the right information, like if they saw how there really is an agenda that looked at us as a populist decades ago, and they said, we're going to get these people hooked on drugs. We're going to make them so weak and inept. We're going to dumb them down in school. We're going to steal their childhood. We're going to take shop out of the school so they don't do anything actually with their hands. All they have is book knowledge. Again, I was saying after Vietnam, a lot of people came back with opioid addiction because there's a lot more opioids in the East. And again, America's been on an opioid kick ever since that just gets worse and worse. But 1968, that year of the raid at Hamilton Hall, again, that was the year of years. MLK assassination, RFK assassination, coronavirus was coined in 1968. Fentanyl was approved by the FDA in 1968. Again, George W. Bush got out of Yale Skull and Bones. The list goes on. Again, 911 made the national emergency dialing code in 68. World Trade Center construction began in 68. So many things so important to the 21st century. The biggest killers of the 21st century. The wars that came out of 9/11. COVID. Fentanyl. These are the biggest killers of the 21st century. They all go back to 1968. Something I never really explored now that I think about it is just like, I wonder what big corporate things happened in 1960. I'm going to look more into that. The Rockefellers founded the Club of Rome in 1968, 3 days after MLK's assassination. But yeah, again, the basic conversations that people need to talk about are why are we getting so fat? Why are so many people so overweight? Why are so many people having the same health ailments and on medication for it when we all know it's dietary? What is the collective thing we need to do with humanity so we don't have to have these medical problems that are hard on our bodies and take years off our life and then make it so that we can have a reason to have a medical prescription that has a bunch of side effects that are probably also not good for us over the long run? It's crazy that right now drugs that were developed for other things originally are now being marketed on TV as weight loss drugs because one of the things those drugs do is suppress diet, which helps a lot of people with weight loss because if they're not hungry and they don't have a craving to eat, they're not eating. And that really is the secret to weight loss. Again, I've always been able to maintain my weight for all of my life because I've always been able to control my cravings and not overeat. And again, it's also, I've wanted to take care of myself always, but I've always thought like, if you're eating food, you're taking from something that was living. It could have been a plant. It could have been an animal. So it's like you should appreciate that. You should eat all that. But at the same time, there is some suffering for that animal. So you shouldn't eat too much of that meat because then you're probably creating just too much suffering. It's gluttony. So yeah, it's just like you give people the right reasons to change. If they see how it can help them, and by them doing the right thing for them also helps in other matters in the world. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like if everybody's having the right conversations, eventually this is what everything would change to. The nightly news instead of the latest divisive thing that they can get us with would be like more about like how humanity has almost reached the peak of or has exceeded the peak. I just here to make a point of what I'm trying to say. You're like the peak of what? right now, humanity is living less. The person born right now at this moment in history has lesser of a life expectancy than their ancestors, and that had not been happening until just very recently. There'd been a steady progression of people living longer and longer and longer because of advancements, but now we're going exactly backwards. And there's so many, big storylines in the news, like the royal family on the anniversary of the Georgia Guidestones, March 22nd this year. Kate of the royal family, who'd been missing, a big suspense about where she's been. She comes out and says she has cancer on the 44th anniversary of the Georgia Guidestones, which were stone monuments, 19 feet tall, etched out in 10 different languages, 10 rules for a new world. The first one was about population control and reducing the Earth's population drastically to 500 million is what it calls for the Earth's population to be maintained at. But the last rule of the 10 rules on there, the first was the depopulation, and the last was um, be not a cancer on the earth. Be not a cancer on the earth. And again, it was the 44th anniversary of them being put up that Kate came out and said she had cancer. In Gematria, the practice of coining numbers into words, cancer equals 44, like chemo, like kill. Words like execution in Georgia both equal 44. One of the most famous men from Georgia, MLK, killed on 4-4. Fateful pattern. The first president to die in office, William Henry Harrison, died on 4-4. In the occult, 4 is associated with death. DC is known as the Masonic city. Masonry's into the occult. They're into Kabbalah. Kabbalah is where this thing of letters and numbers comes from. Etched on the temple is Allah's number. Anyway, this might be the worst video I ever made. I might actually go back and watch this video, something I never do. But I got all flustered by the mic being muted, and I just lost my whole train of thought. So I've just been like a tangential wreck. But here, I'm going to try to put it together in a soundbite. I might even have to clip this and just put it out as a 5-minute video later. Okay, what I wanted to say, and to make sure the point of all my rambling is coherent and does have a point. The point of what I'm saying is, again, there's a progression for humanity that is not good right now that everyone can see. And it's in our children. Just how many children are obese now, something that just used to not happen. If I was muted when I said it, my first elementary school, about 500 children, and I can only remember one child that was overweight, and there might have been a second who, like, I just hardly ever saw because he was in some other corner of the building. But I'm even making up the second student to saying there couldn't have been more than 2. I remember 1, but now you just go to an elementary school, and it's just so many. And then you look at the teachers in the parking lot, and you're like, oh my god, like, you see, and that's the thing too. Okay, people need to get over this whole nice thing, right? Because I want to say something that's not nice, and people get so offended. But if you really think about what I'm saying, am I wrong? Am I actually wrong? Maybe it's not the nicest thing in the world, but am I wrong? And that thing is, when I drive by a lot of these school parking lots, I see a lot of really, I want to say fat, because the word just cuts more, and that's why people don't like it. But way overweight people in the teacher parking lot, getting out of their cars, walking up to the school. And again, it's not all, but it's a lot. And it's a common sight when I drive by these schools. You see the teachers out there, and you're like, man, I mean, is that an example for a child? Should you have this way overweight teacher? I mean, in a way, you're a child growing up. You're thinking these are the smartest people around you, the people helping out the community, raising the future generations. A lot of these children are already obese. They're just looking at it. They're like, oh, it's just normal. It's just what we do as people. We just get real big. And it wasn't this way. And again, I mean, you just see the whole progression of society. It looks less healthy. It is less healthy. It's living less than their ancestors. How are you going to continue to look to elected officials for help in these matters? You're going to look to the same federal government that 20 years ago made sure certain preservatives and chemicals that go in a lot of our processed food didn't have to be on labels anymore. That's the kind of stuff our federal government does. Make sure certain things don't have to be on labels. And there must be a reason that certain companies, again, you have a nation where, all the mega corporations are writing a ton of these bills that the lobbyists get in front of the congressmen that occasionally get voted on. But these laws are being written by corporations. They're the only ones that would want to make sure that certain things didn't have to be on labels. And what do they know about those things that apparently the FDA testing's not up on yet? And that's the game of our government always being so slow and incompetent too, and private industry being way ahead. It's like, how's a slow and incompetent government ever going to regulate a private industry that's light years ahead of it? But anyway, all of these questions need to be answered and had and answered. Tomato, tomato. But yeah. Anyway, I'm still not getting it out clearly. Humanity needs to figure out a way to have a conversation about how unhealthy we're becoming. Literally, how like sensitive we're becoming too. Is that because of all the medication? Is that one of the side effects that just society gets real sensitive? Because it didn't used to be this sensitive. People used to have a sense of humor and make fun of each other and give each other a hard time and laugh about it. And sometimes a fight would break out. And sometimes after that fight, all things really were settled because somebody knew they were top dog and the other person was like, I'm going to shut my mouth from now on because I don't want that to happen to me again. I mean, that's how the world was when I grew up. And you didn't have to worry about getting sued for everything. That was just the way the world was, you know? And now I turn on the TV, and now if they're not talking about this, they have a buzz story about how, here's the latest on this football player who has this new brain virus from his head getting hit so many times. Again, you guys, it's everywhere. They're just trying to make you more sensitive and more soft. I'm sure taking a bunch of hits to the head's not a good thing. I mean, look at a lot of pro fighters when they're older, how they sound. You can tell it took a toll, but not always. To each man their own. And people should do what they want to do. But the point I'm making is you can't argue with me that football is making people here's the argument I'm trying to make. Football, like the modern day NFL, has so much more advanced technology in terms of the body armor these guys are wearing. Plus, the rules are so much softer. And again, that's college has gotten softer. In all these years of hard hitting and dirty football, and what we now look back and say, oh, it's good they made that rule change because that was too violent. Again, you look back then, though, people were a lot smarter. So again, they're trying to, if you guys are following the logic of what I'm saying, they're just trying to always give you these stories to make you just soften up a little bit more. It's the reason this is happening is because we've been doing football. It's like, again, I don't think football's the epidemic. I'm sorry. I didn't even need to bring that into my argument. But again, collective conversation about how we've gotten so unhealthy, so soft, so sensitive, but also why certain groups have to be loved way more than others. Why we in a free land can't come out. Because again, what I would say is, listen, if the establishment doesn't like that people have concern for Gaza, then they want to use their media to push the idea that if you care about the people who are getting killed in Gaza, women, children, and men, that Gaza land looks like a Hollywood set for an apocalyptic film from all the decades of bombing there. But the media wants to teach you that if you have sympathy for them, you actually might be a bad person. You might be anti-Semitic. And it's really crazy how they try to do this. People need to be able to come out and have conversations, and it needs to be modeled because, again, people emulate what they see. In the media, that they're always bickering and fighting and so partisan. The media always wants to act like it doesn't instigate anything when it instigates everything. The media needs to, and again, people need to put pressure on the media. Humanity needs to say, listen, we're going to get rid of our cable if we don't see a change in this coverage. We don't want any more of this super biased coverage. We want you talking about the solution. How does America get together and get over all these religious and historical differences? And how do we move on? How can we do that as a nation who pays taxes? Do we really need to pay reparations? Can we agree to that for certain communities because we've sent all this money to Israel? Is that the justification to say, you know what, this would help out some communities? It would be positive. Again, anyway, people need to figure out how to have real conversations about all these differences that they've had us divided up against and stop going out and just looking to scream at the next person. So, and there have been times where I'm sure in my life I've been guilty of doing just that. But yeah, these are the things that really need to happen because this thing that they just continue to do to America, the same old, same old. You can only love Israel. You can't love anybody else. You're a bad person if you're not totally on board with everything we're teaching you about how we need to be down for Israel's cause. That whole thing just needs to end. And it doesn't mean we can't support Israel, but it just means that they can't be treated like they're an exceptional class better than everyone else. And I want to also make this point too. Last, it's not Jews that are doing this. It's not Jews that are making Jews the favored class. Is there Jews in the group that are making Jews the favored class? Yes, but that doesn't mean all Jews are making Jews the favored class by our government and in Western media. This is a very clever agenda that is very much meant to make people divide where they know they can be divided. And religion is a mega hotspot for that. Race is another one. History is another one. These buttons are pushed all the time. And in the 21st century, there's really become well, it's happened in the past too, but the 21st century has been a huge focus of sexuality. At the end of the 90s, you had the Matthew Shepard killing. For young people like me, when that happened, that was something that they talked about in school too, and how, if you do come across, it was just kind of, I can't remember, but they brought it up a little bit, just kind of not to hate people because of, their sexuality. It was a brief thing that came into the classroom for a little bit, but it was around that Matthew Shepard. And then you see since then, just, around the same time as Matthew Shepard, if you weren't alive then, politicians like on both sides of the aisle were mostly very opposed to homosexual marriage. But again, I understood back then. I was like, well, if it's about, two people who love each other and they want to make a family and make their life better together, I mean, like, to me, that sounds like freedom. But anyway, it went from like very against that to very for it. And it wasn't even like a decade later that there was same sex marriage. And then, a lot of things changed in the time of Obama's administration. And then that's when there also really became a push or a focus on transgender, like really getting this idea of transgender being out there, which was a really rare thing. I live in one of the more, growing up in my, through all my 20s, before all this stuff was on the map, living in Seattle, one of the more liberal, progressive cities, a lot more gay people like San Francisco. Again, the Capitol Hill area neighborhood in Seattle is a lot like the Castro in San Francisco. But in the whole time I lived in Seattle, I only met two people that were ever transgender. And to one was just like a real chill, shy person. So I didn't really know them that well. The other one I worked with and was just like literally psychotic. And it was bad because it was working with homeless teenagers, and they were just like taking out all their trauma every day, just like starting fights with the teen. You're like, man, everything, like, these kids aren't amped up or having any problems or acting out until this person comes here and starts fighting with them each day. And then they were saying like, sorry, I'm taking these testosterone pills and they just make me act up. And I was like, I just never had to work with a transgender person before, but I was like, it was a woman becoming a man, going by the name Connor. But yeah, I mean, they were wild, and it was just, I was just thinking, I don't know if this is right. I don't know if people should be taking pills to become something they're not. Because now what? And then at the workplace, they said, listen, we can't do anything about this because you get sued big time if you fire somebody, and it has to do with their gender transition. I was like, like, that was just such a rare circumstance. But now, like, Seattle's become the norm across the nation. And again, we need to have conversations about why all these things are happening. Because some of us have been looking into it for a long time, and we have a pretty good argument for what's up. And again, if I'm wrong about everything, then I need to be proven wrong. But like I've said, people should look into 1968. That was also the year the book The Population Bomb came out, about why something needs to be done about the Earth's population. And you think about where, really like normalizing and putting it out there in a lot of entertainment and media and government, so it just becomes stories everywhere. It becomes the conversation in the classroom. You think about the way it works. I mean, this is the programming, right? So why is it that in the 21st century they really want a big focus on more people being homosexual? Again, I understand being respectful to homosexual people. I never had a problem with that ever. And I remember when I was driving for Uber and Lyft for a few months in Seattle in spring of 2018, I picked up these two gay men in the south end of Seattle, and they were making all these jokes about the new big tech neighbors that moved in, and they were joking about how they missed the gangbangers that used to just live in the community. Because if you don't know Seattle, it's super segregated. The south end is mostly all black people, so you had two white gay men living down in the south end, but it's changing because of all the big money that's coming to Seattle. But anyway, I just remember I didn't do that justice, but they were just hilarious the way they were cracking jokes about their new neighbors and what they thought of them. And yeah, so it's like I don't have any reason to hate these guys. Like I'm not into the whole gay thing. Just don't. And if you do ask me to do anything, trust me, that's a big fat no. But yeah, it's just like humanity really does just need to learn how to cooperate and coexist and not fight over stupid things. Because I mean, that's like really the world they've created, right? Well, people do fight for real things that matter as well, but they have a lot of people fighting over like stupid things that don't need to be fought over. Religion. I mean, like if you're really about, well, I guess your religion can teach you to hate other religions. None of the Abrahamic religions really do that, but it's funny how they get instigated. And the Bible's written in this way where things are open to interpretation. But yeah, well, again, it's just like it's just so annoying to watch how the world doesn't change for the better, but changes for the worse as time goes on. And when you're awake and you've been trying to get people, again, I've spent the last 20 years of my life trying to get people to think about how to eat better and take better care of themselves and do something about this tyrannical government. And it's just like, God. Well, it could be worse if I wasn't. It could be even worse. So I mean, and that's you always have to have the glass is half full mentality of like, well, what if I wasn't doing anything? It could be even worse. I just got to get more people to do what I'm doing, and then it won't be worse. And that's what I mean, you guys. All this stuff that we see, the way we're mocked, programmed, lied to, made to pay for certain wars that do have parallels to genocide. And I've always made this point. If you're new here, I've always pointed out how people really need to think about U.S. history and what we learn and how they give us this label, manifest destiny. That's how they teach. Maybe do they? Hold on. I graduated from high school in 2001. I was out of undergrad college in 2005. I went back to grad school and got a master's in teaching right after that. But I lost my train of thought. I'm so bad today. I'm so bad. I was trying to say what they were doing to us in school. I was trying to say, oh yeah, manifest destiny. I'm tripping. Manifest destiny. That was the label they gave us for the genocide of the natives. You know, it wasn't a genocide, it was manifest destiny. It's like, how many tens of millions of people got killed? What are the estimates? Again, they like cleared out the people that were here from east to west over time. So yeah, and again, you think about what's going again, you know, the war in Israel starts on the anniversary of us invading Afghanistan. Israel was put in there after the world wars. Since they've been there, some of the population that used to be around there has been displaced, eliminated, a lot less men than there used to be. A lot of them killed in one form of warfare. And again, you guys, for any radical Islam that there might be in the world, remember how scary it was? That's the way it used to kill me after 9/11. They'd literally show you on the news. They'd show you like the towers come down from three different angles, and then they'd have on some guy to talk about the terrorist threat, and then they'd cut to the footage where it says in the corner, it says Afghanistan, and it's a shot from behind of everyone. And they all look pretty skinny, all these guys, and they're all going across the monkey bars, and you can see they got the turbans on. But you can't really see them, but they're all going across the monkey bars. And then they cut back to 9/11 and then maybe some footage of the Gulf War in the past. And it's like, come on, man. These politicians are literally coming on TV and saying we got to do this and that and give up that. And the hardest evidence that they can show us on TV is that these dudes are on monkey bars, that these guys are down on a knee firing off AK-47s into the desert. I mean, like I thought, wasn't the Cold War scarier than this? Like we didn't have to give up this many rights and liberties for the Cold War, so why we got to do it for this? Oh man. But yeah, again, I just don't know what to say anymore, Truth Seeker. I can come here on here every day and decode the news and show people what the high ritual is. And it's like, I'm just like, maybe what we're teaching over here is like class number 501. We got to hit them with 101. 101's just like looking in the mirror and saying, like, do you value your life? Do you not want to die from preventable disease and illness? Do you not want to pass on big bills to your ancestors because you died from some preventable disease and illness because you couldn't control the amount of sugar smacks and Cheetos you put in your mouth each day or whatever it is? And again, we're raised to think it's okay to eat Pop Tarts on the way to school with an orange juice full of extra sugar and a yogurt cup that has a ton of sugar in it. It's like when I started to learn about nutrition and what a lot of people in the world thought, like the amount of sugar you should be eating a day. If you guys have never researched this topic about how much sugar, like health gurus that are out there that have lived long lives and have shown that they can maintain a great appearance and have high energy and do what a lot of other people don't, maintain great activity at an older age. They're talking about making sure you stay hydrated, but also making sure you don't put too much sugar in your body because sugar really breaks down the body, just like alcohol does. And alcohol comes from sugar. Don't forget in Gematria, sugar equals 33 like alcohol, and they ended prohibition in 33. Again, this same gang that plays this game with us with the programming where they do it by the numbers. That's the part I teach about that just, again, you're talking 101's your health, 201's getting played by this media that plays you for a fool and tells you to just march along and pay your taxes and not really think about anything and just go along with the latest punchline and put the latest yellow ribbon on your sticker. Again, that's going to happen, you guys. That's going to happen if this continues to escalate, the war in the Middle East. At some point, they're going to bring back the ribbon sticker. And people are going to put those ribbon stickers on their car. And what it's going to express is the media sentiment because they're going to be telling you to get your ribbon sticker and support Israel. And we can't allow these Hamas terrorist supporting Americans who are misguided, persuade us any other way. And then you look at those people like, what did you just call them? Did you talk to them? They said they just don't like how people are being killed in Gaza. But that's what the media wants to do. They want to tell you that if you don't like people being killed in Gaza, then you support Hamas, a terrorist organization. And there couldn't be anything more anti-Semitic. And again, I'm telling you, it's not Jews who are doing that. It's the Jesuits. Again, if you guys are new here, that's what I spend my time teaching about. Who gave us the calendar, the language? Who's designed these high rituals that they do day after day? Here, just to make a point. This was in that same CNN story right here about the police tactics. If you scroll down through the page, you'll find this story right here. Here's where university protesters have been arrested across the U.S. so far. So it gives you a purple dot for every place it says that at least 45 arrests were made. At least 45, right? So it's like, that's interesting. At least 45. I mean, why not just go to 50? How did we stop at 45? And again, it's just like Donald Trump with all of his 45 rituals. It's number 45. Recently, his ex-wife falls down the stairs 45 years after their marriage. Or more recently, on his golf course on 4-5, there's an earthquake on the epicenter. Synced with Scotty Scheffler. I don't want to get into it. But that earthquake, guys, was literally on Henrik Stenson's birthday, who won the first ever pro golf tournament at Trump's course there. Oh, man. These are the things like that. So we were talking about like first is your health and then like seeing how the media programs you and then starting to understand the bigger picture. At some point, you get to maybe the gematria lesson and then eventually you get to the weather warfare and the bombs in the ground and the earthquakes that weren't Mother Nature. Again, that's another level. But again, let's just come back to the 45 thing. At least 45 arrests. So again, with gematria, it never takes long to solve the mystery. Again, if you're new here, 45 is a high ritual number. The word arrest also equates to 45. And again, you just pay attention. It doesn't matter if you're watching CNN, Fox, MSNBC, BBC. They're all getting down with these rituals and these numbers that don't need to be in the story or in a way are kind of weird. You'll see sentences like approximately 211 It's like, wait a minute. Approximately 211? I mean, I could understand if they wrote 210 because we're used to counting in tens because of how many fingers we have. But approximately 211, and then you look at the story and the explosion where it happened. The town equals 211. Again, that's what we've been talking about for just every single day for over a decade straight. That's why in this video I'm flustered for all kinds of reasons. Like I don't know what to say anymore, and what's with the muted mic thing for this service you pay for? I feel like they're messing with us. Just muting the mic at the beginning right before you go live. It's like you guys got here late. The first few minutes of this stream are muted, and there's this new thing on Streamyard where it just occasionally will just have your stream start on mute for God knows what reason. It was never like that before. Anyway, at least 45 arrests in all these places. I see one of them was my alma mater, Arizona State. How funny. But again, here's the other thing about 45. Remember, who's the most polarizing man in America right now who's back on the scene in a big way? We're hearing about the latest legal matters every day. 8 years ago, it was lock her up. Now it's lock him up. And if you go back and watch our videos from 8 years ago, we were talking about how this could be something they do in the future because this is how they love to mock humanity, the irony in their scripts, But remember, go back and look if you don't know this to be true. April 30th, 2011, White House Correspondents' Dinner where they tell the funnies. That year, Obama had all the jokes about Donald Trump being the next president of the United States, which would have made him number 45 because Obama was number 44. The day they did that, April 30th, again, was the 45th birthday of the Church of Satan, founded April 30th, 1966. The highest degree of the Church of Satan is MAGA, M-A-G-A. And if you're out there like, prove it, listen, just go to the Church of Satan's website. It's right on their own website. It has the 5 degrees of the Church of Satan. You will see the highest is mega. So on the 45th birthday of the Church of Satan, Obama jokes. The same Obama that joked with LeBron, and people took it as a joke, but were they really joking about selling their souls? And let's not forget King. Oh, I'll get to the King. There's a reason the King James Bible came out in the year that he was 45, 1611. This is all biblical at the end of the day. This whole Kabbalah thing, this whole letters and numbers thing. Study my work, you'll see how the numbered Bibles came out in English, and then boom, right behind it, the calendar, the standardization of the language, a system was put in place for high ritual. But again, 45, this polarizing figure. So many 45 rituals. In Gematria, Berlin Wall equates to 45. He was first called president-elect on the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall in the early hours of November 9th, 2016. If you go back and look, he accepts the nomination at 2:48 a.m. 2:48 a.m. on the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Remember, right now, the Illuminati just turned 248 years old. The United States will turn 248 years old on July 4th this year. President Donald Trump equals 248. He had the mug shots in Atlanta on the 24th of August, 24/8. Again, Pluto has a 248-year orbital period. If you're into astrology, there's something interesting about this time with Pluto. And, of course, Pluto has that thing where it was, we finally got the image of the planet the same year that the Disney character Pluto came out. And, again, Disney's Dame Lay, which is Knights Templar, which is Catholic Church. It's why the Templar cross and the Jesuit logo. And, of course, Donald Trump is Jesuit-educated at Fordham. But, yeah, these at least 45 arrests. You just think about spelling. So they're just all these little ways they have to provoke people right now, right? Just trying to turn up the temperature on the boiling pot for society. They're instigating you with all these little different stories. You've been getting provoked all through the 21st century by things that are so much different for this generation than they were for yours. Things you could have never imagined. What I'm trying to say is you cannot let these things provoke you because that's what they want you to do. And that's what I have to get better about. So I'm realizing as I got the little one coming out and I have not achieved my mission in the last 10 years, I got to do some soul searching and figure out how to get this package better too. But in the process, I want in the end our legacy to be about how we brought about the right conversations in humanity and got people to finally see it and do something about it. They're not going to go to the store, seeing how they're getting herded in there to buy the junk food with all the extra sugar in it, so then they can stand in the pharmacy line and be on all these pills and have to worry about all these side effects. And now they got this ailment. The doctor's got this new drug for it. And this goes on for the rest of your life until you expire, probably earlier than you were supposed to, as is the case for so many Americans. But yeah, every day, people putting the junk food in the mouth, consuming this kind of contrived information where they're literally putting their number spell on it, which comes straight from Kabbalah. And again, you guys, it is all biblical. And we've been talking about this since before Trump even became president, how if he became number 45, back then, before he was even number 45, we were showing how Mike Pence equals 45 forwards and backwards, and how they were doing all these rituals. They were paying tribute to the trumpets in Revelation. Trumpets. Remember what the ticket was? It was Trump Pence, Trump Pence, Trump Pitts. Holy Bible 45, forwards and backwards. If you're new here, Gematria is super simple. It's the alphabetic order forwards. A is 1 up to Z is 26. The alphabetic order in reverse. Z is 1 back to A is 26. And then you can apply numerology and then add up the values of words based on what the letter value is. So forwards, H is the 8th letter, O is the 15th. The numerology of 15 is 1 plus 5 is 6. So holy begins 8 plus 6. Then you have L, the 12th letter, which is 1 plus 2 is 3. So L is 3. Y, the 25th letter, is 2 plus 5 is 7. B, the 2nd letter, is 2. I, the 9th letter, is 9. B is 2. Break down L to 3 again. Add it up, Holy Bible 45. There's not a lot of words that are the same forwards and backwards, but Holy Bible is one of them. Mike Pence is one of them. There are some others, but they're not super common. So think about how 45 that was. And since that happened, again, we said Trump's presidency would be biblical. There were the whole thing with COVID and having to wear the mask, one letter off from Mark, and get the jab if you wanted to buy or sell, like Revelation 13:18. Again, in Revelation, you learn about 666, the mark. From the first COVID simulation, May 15, 2018, to the pandemic declared March 11, 2020, was 666 days later. That's when Trump was in office, the father of the jab. Vaccination has that Sumerian gematria 666. The agenda was totally satanic. We documented it a million times. You start to realize it all starts to make sense. The great deceiver. Donald Trump has a lot of people deceived. He has a lot of Christians that think he's the real deal and can save this nation. They're not seeing all the biblical mockery that we've been pointing out. Again, it's because we haven't figured out through all the censorship and everything else how to get this in a big enough conversation. But it really might be that there just needs to be a super active effort at just people just everywhere trying to get out truth about nutrition and where we're being taken and why there are so many health ailments, and why nightly news. I mean, I saw it over 2 years ago now. It could be even worse. It was Lester Holt. It might have been, I can't remember if it was the same night that he was reporting that flu cases were way down and COVID cases were way up. I nearly died of laughter. I just thought, how did they get away with us putting out this news? I mean, do people know that in 1968, coronavirus was coined as a strain of flu? So he literally said flu cases are way down and COVID cases originally that were called that are way up. I mean, I think I get the trade-off. But yeah, it might really have been that strain was dominant. And people have always wondered, like, how do they get these strains? Is there something more going on here than we know? Is a game being played with us? Is it a high ritual? But yeah, if you follow me, there's a reason they put these numbers on it. There's a reason this number is so attached to Donald Trump, who again had this ritual with Obama on the Church of Satan's 45th birthday, 45 days before Donald Trump's birthday. And then again, his ex-wife falls down the stairs and dies 45 years after their marriage. 1977, she dies 2022. Remember, she died exactly 60 weeks into the first ever Jesuit Ignatian year. Donald Trump equals 60, and this is the 60th election upcoming. Where JFK got shot, and also where RFK got shot. Ambassador Hotel and Dealey Plaza, they both have those 54 and 45 connections. Big number for high ritual. And again, this is what, for people to understand this conversation, they have to graduate through some other levels first. They have to realize that there is a problem. It starts right in the mirror. And then, yes, it's going on not just in your mirror, it's going on everywhere. And yeah, why are all these things happening? They're looking at their kitchen or their bathroom, what do you call it? Medicine cabinet. I never had one of those in my life. I've never been on any pharmaceuticals. I have taken a good amount of ibuprofen in my life. I finally learned after like 15 years why I was giving myself headaches, and it had to do with having too many carbs in my diet. Ignorance on nutrition that I probably should have been taught in elementary school. Again, you guys, these are the things we need to be talking about as Americans, just basic things. One of those conversations in there is why are our schools failing us so bad for so long? When I was a child, we would literally learn how we were like ranked out of all Western societies. We were ranked 30th in this and 40 something in this, and it was like that doesn't seem very good. These other countries in front of us, I never even heard of them before. I thought we're the greatest. They'd be telling us that when we were kids in school. And then they'd also be telling us about, again, how we were lucky we weren't Chinese because we'd be going to school all year round and longer days each day. But again, I made this point many times before. Had we been going to school year round as young people and for longer, we'd know more, especially if it was tailored at us knowing more. We'd be way more advanced at a younger age. And then we'd be like the young people in Seattle and the Bay Area from China making $300,000 a year to work on big tech projects. Some of those jobs are designing emojis. I literally, when I was driving around in the Seattle area, I picked up a young Indian man, and he was telling me all about how much he loved his job. And I was taking him over to, he was doing some collaborative assignment. I was taking him back to the Google campus. And I guess on Fridays, they got like a full bar catered to him and a whole bunch of food. And he said, I love Fridays, man. We get wasted. We eat all this stuff. And he was just spilling the. So I asked him, I was like, what's your job there? He's like, I work on emojis. I was just like, wow. And I forget, I talked to a number of people. Some people revealed their salaries, and they're making over 300 G's. This one guy working on face technology, he explained that to me. He's like, I feel guilty about this because I know it could be bad, but he's like, I'm paid so well, and I help out my family so much, and they're so proud of me. He was a young Chinese guy. Even his own morals, he knew like building this technology might not be good for the world, but he's just getting paid so well. Anyway, the point I'm making is the reason those people have the skills to even do this is because they put in the time when they were younger. And in America, we were kind of taught like, oh, we're lucky we're not like that. That's what those crazy communists do. Again, the point is there's a balance in all things. We're not getting that balance. We're being lied to. We're being cheated. We're being misled. We're being set up. We're being mocked. And again, just the way how things can change in the snap of fingers, right? Since George Floyd, like the whole thing with police has been like, well, police are like super chill now, and that's leading to more crime, and that's actually not good for these communities. And you see some people bringing back more police funding because they went chill, and then they had to bring it back because it got bad. But it still, overall, just police has been more of a lax thing in the U.S. And now you see, though, how it just can come back on full-on swinging, shields, baton, force, if you go against the group that you got to love the most. And again, the reason that is because at the end of the day, we got a society of people that are just following orders and doing exactly what they were told to do for that day because that's what they were supposed to do at that job to get that paycheck, to keep a roof over their head and food in their belly that maybe shouldn't be in their belly because maybe it's not healthy and maybe it's even engineered to be unhealthy and cause problems. So they end up in the pharmacy line. Maybe that's why they put so much overkill with the sugar and so much food. I don't know if I finished the line earlier. I was saying a lot of health experts think you shouldn't have more than 20 grams of sugar a day. I mean, the average American, every single thing they're eating throughout the day probably has over 20 grams of sugar. You look at a lot of the way people eat, especially with this. I don't even want to estimate. I mean, I guarantee you there's a lot of Americans that probably get 500 grams of sugar every day in their diet. Probably every day because of all the soda. Starting the day with some Pop-Tarts on a side of pancakes with some sugary syrup over. And personally, when I haven't had pancakes since forever, but when I was a kid, I would love having pancakes with peanut butter. Oh, man. I mean, I know how it is, but the thing was when we were kids, we were eating like that, and we were drinking Capri Suns and all this crap too, but we were active. We were always outside playing every sport, running around. And again, if children were active today, wouldn't be as heavy. So that's the thing. The food's gotten worse, and people have gotten more sedentary. People are being raised in front of screens. A lot of people's jobs are a lot less active. A lot of jobs are now through a computer screen, just sitting, working, interacting with the computer. The computer is doing what the human being used to do. But yeah, all of these things need to be addressed. We need to look at each other and say, you know what? we love technology, right? You can't take technology away from people, but there should be a conversation about, you know what? Do we need to like, again, don't judge what I'm about to say, right? Because I'm not saying this is what should be done, but just these kind of discussions should be had in a way. Freedom to me is ultimately the most important thing, but we also should look at the world we live in and in history in an intelligent way and say, how do we prevent that from happening again? And here's kind of just a way I feel, and I could be totally wrong, it could be because I'm living in this moment. But I feel like technology, again, all things are good and bad, but I don't like what technology has done to humanity, and I've always kind of had this beef with technology since I was young. And I'll tell you, like, for years I heard the name of the show Full House, right? For years I kept hearing this name Full House because kids I would play with, they'd go in early some nights because they wanted to watch Full House, and I didn't know what it was, but I'd always hear it. I'd be like, "Damn, they're going in again to play Full House." I probably didn't say "damn" as a little kid, but I'd be like, "What? Now we don't have enough people." They're like, "We can't miss Full House." Like, Full House? Well, like, what could be better than this? Thought this is what we do. We're out here playing. We're having fun. But for years, just this. Anyway, as time got on, just like then as you get older, like I gotta watch 90210. I like never knew what these shows were. Like I'm not watching TV. I learned at a young age that I mostly didn't like the TV. It was like the thing that was breaking up the game with the friends. People want to go play, watch the TV instead of play the game. TV was like my enemy. And the other thing I just always noticed as a kid is too, if I was in a room with a TV on, I might overhear a story that was like creepier, like, God, I don't want to know that. And then I just go outside and I'd be like shooting basketball hoops or throwing the ball with my friend. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know why they want to sit there and listen in front of that TV. Look at it, it's beautiful out here today. You know, again, people need to realize what a lot of us realized a long time ago. And I'm saying myself as a child, I just realized there was something wrong with that news and that low vibration and always negative and scary. I mean, you walk up in front of the TV, you might feel like you're about to die from some biohazard that's out there just right around the corner, but it's not. You're more likely to run into a biohazard at Walmart. I just started shopping at Walmart when I lived in Yakima. I'd never shopped there in my life until we moved there in 2018, but it's just they didn't have a lot of options. I'm like, this is how it happens in the small town. You cannot get what you want. The only one that has it is Walmart. But just in the times I went in Walmart, man, I mean, that place was a biohazard. I can't tell you how many people like literally shit their pants in the store, and the whole aisle was like shut down with shit all over it. I was like, what is going on at Walmart? Why are people always shitting their pants here? This didn't used to happen in society. It's just sorry if that story was too much, but no, I mean that's a real story. Like several times I went in the Walmart, just a big somebody had just take a big shit in the aisle and went like through their pants and their shorts. Like, oh my God, again? Is it the same person every time? Who's doing this? But no, it's because humanity's fallen apart because of what we eat. And yeah, with regards to all this going on the education campuses, again, we all know what it really is in America. It's indoctrination. It's go get that piece of paper to get the big job. Yeah, you went and you became a doctor, but do you really know anything about nutrition and human health? Yeah, you might know how to solve a few ailments and prescribe a few of these and perform that surgery. There are real things to Western medicine, no doubt about it. But the average U.S. doctor, like, literally knows nothing about nutrition. And I mean, it's like, how can that even be? They pay all this money, they spend all this time in school, and just nowhere is a focus on nutrition. The most important thing, just taking care of yourself from and we know why that is. It's because there's no money in people taking care of themselves. There's no money in the farm family that lives out on a piece of land that they don't have to pay a gazillion dollars in taxes to some authority that's just self-sustaining. You know what I mean? Once upon a time, our ancestors, they had a piece of land. They grew food. They work with their neighbors. You know, they help each other out. They know they know the people around them. They have time to spend with their family, their loved ones. I mean, it was just simple. And I guess that's kind of thing too, just like simple. Technology is not simple. Technology, man, it's just like as it goes on, it gets worse and worse for all kinds of reasons. It gets better and better too, but I feel like humanity was just meant to be, you know, a lot simpler. Family, friends, neighbors, food, where your food came from, growing your own food. naturally being active because it takes time to maintain your land. I mean, imagine if you had an acre of land to maintain. Imagine that. You'd be busy all the time. You got to maintain what's in that field, make sure the food's growing, the weeds aren't taking over or whatever. You got to take care of that big piece of land every day actively. Again, I think all these conversations need to be had, because what if somehow, some way, like if we can't ever take down the federal government, here's another thing that I wonder about as I just get so tangential and spitball. I've always thought that you cannot change this government from within, and I still really feel that way. It has to be changed from the outside, and it has to be changed by revolution, just like Thomas Jefferson said. Thomas Jefferson said every 19 years there would need to be a revolution in America to preserve liberty and justice. Again, every 19 years, that's 1-9, like how the moon's on a 19-year cycle, like how you got COVID-19 19 years after 9/11 and the 19 hijackers. And everything about 9/11 goes back to that year 1968, the year they discovered the Quran code that said it was all about 19. But yeah, all these things, these orchestrated rituals, trying to speak out against them and get people to do something and care. It's just like, I hate to be this deep in the game. I hate to have this much gray hair on my face. I hate to be now in my 40s and everything I was concerned about in my 20s, it unfortunately just about the society and the government and how corrupt it is and where things could go. It's sad to see it taking place, but I know still there is a way it could change. It's just somehow, some way, humanity has to figure out how to decide, like, they want to use the technology of the time, to use it to connect and build and work together. And I mean, honestly, like a thing that could, I don't know if I want a thing that could make it work. A lot of people are scared to. No, I'm not even going to go there. Never mind. I was going to say a lot of people are scared to go out because they're worried something bad's going to happen to them. And you know what? If you're out in a city like Portland these days, you never know when they're going to deploy the Antifa thugs on you, which is another federal high ritual. And that's what they did at these campuses too. They instigated the violence so that they could bring in all the force. That's what they do every time. They televise the event. They get people out there. They get the shots. Then they instigate something. Then the police come in and really crack down. Then they get their big scene. And then the media acts like, see, that's why you shouldn't be supporting them anyway. It's anti-Zionist. And look at all this damage and violence. And like literally Fox News is gloating about how we sent $95 billion, but then shaming people because there's going to have to be tax dollars spent on cleaning up the graffiti. And yeah, I get that. I mean, you shouldn't damage anyone's property, even if you're a graffiti artist. Like that shows that your moral code's broken. You shouldn't damage other people's property. But it's not to say graffiti's bad, though. There is nice art graffiti. I'm sure there's a place for that too. Figure out a way to create a cool community wall where the greatest graffiti artists come and do their best works. And instead of beefing with each other, they're trying to get feedback from the community and see who likes what. I don't know. It's just America. It's always been, everything's just divisive. Everyone's fighting over everything, and it never changes. And everyone's still pointing their fingers at all the wrong groups, and they still don't know nothing about nothing. The point I was trying to make is the system does have to come down, but a part of me wonders. Like the one thing that my mom does say to me that maybe she's right about, she always says that I should figure out a way to run for office. And I joked about this years ago that I was going to run for office. I was not serious at all. And then my trolls went wild with it. But I'm probably totally unelectable because my troll network's really good at making me look bad. But again, I just think like if somehow you could get like, I don't know, that Derek Bros, right? The other year when he tried to run for mayor in Houston. And I always wonder, I'm like, is Derek Bros part of it too? But he did get some TV coverage. I'm just wondering, like, if we could, we got to figure out a way to advance the research and the arguments and the knowledge. And I mean, we can't keep pushing the way we've been pushing, but it just doesn't feel like it's going to be the breakthrough. I feel like we're in overtime and we're down a good amount of points, and we got to mount a comeback ASAP. So, all right. Again, I did not communicate nearly as clearly as I wanted to, but I do want to take calls on this subject of how do we create the conversation about things that there literally needs to be major conversations about: our health, how we look, what we're marching along to. I mean, how can people not see the mockery of this election that we're being given between the two major parties yet again? And it's been mockery so many times, but just yet again, the same candidates as the last one. People on their knees waiting for Trump to come back to save us when he's the guy that was in office. When again he went along with the Switzerland banker agenda, printed all the money. I mean, this is the guy that you want to solve the problems that essentially he was instrumental in helping create. Not to mention it was all by the numbers. Remember, he was at the World Economic Forum, which simulated the pandemic, January 21st, 2020, the same day the virus was confirmed in the U.S. for the first time, gloating about his trade deal with China that happened on January 15th, 2020. Getting that first case in the Seattle area. It was confirmed the 21st when he was at the World Economic Forum, but they said it arrived in the U.S. on January 15th, the day of his trade deal with China. The first case in the world from China, outside of China, was in Seattle, Washington, Bill Gates' backyard, the main co-sponsor of the Event 201 simulation. The same day the military World Games began in Wuhan, China. And again, it was Trump's 222nd day of his age, the day he was there in Wuhan. Coronavirus and Gematria is 222, like World Economic Forum, like Order Out of Chaos, like New York, again, where the Event 201 simulation was. And again, it was exactly 222 months from 9/11 to the pandemic being declared. Major Order Out of Chaos events, world-changing events, new world order, U.S. people being made to think that their beliefs are inferior or wrong in an international agenda. Again, you go to these Jesuit universities, they got all these quotes etched up all over their universities. They're so proud of everything they're doing about creating a world order. It's not hard to see who's really doing this, but they know how to play everybody, and that's what the Jesuits. If you do not know who the Jesuits are, they are a Catholic Jewish alliance that came out of the 16th century at the time of the Protestant Reformation, led by Martin Luther, who wrote the book, or he wrote the 95 Theses, first of all, starting the Protestant Reformation. And again, that's why Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on the 95th day of the year, and 95, such a huge number in Jesuit ritual. There's a big reason we just gave them 95 billion, Israel and Ukraine. 95 billion on the 201st day of the war. First major gun control legislation in the nation was 201 days after MLK was killed on the 95th day of the year in 68. And then from the 95 Theses being pinned by Martin Luther to the creation of the Jesuits 201 months later. Anyhow, I'll keep jibber jabbering forever. So if you'd like to call in and add to this conversation about how we create a conversation to get people on a level where they can start to comprehend information that they need to make informed decisions to stop this tyranny that's getting worse with each passing day and showing what it's about more clearly with each passing year. How do we do it in this age where people are so sensitive? They're not looking for answers. My next idea is this children's book series. I'm wondering if that could do it. So I'm searching for solutions, but again, maybe somebody out there's got the $1 million idea. So if you want to call in and talk about how do we create the conversation to talk about, again, our health, our society, and get people to, and again, the point is to suck them out of the conversation they're invested in, the one that's in the media, the one that's on the screen. How do we get people to not be so taken by that and have conversations that are actually real about real things that are about us and beyond, and not falsely investing our hopes in the latest political candidate or celebrity or whatever it is that they're trying to all get us to follow and get behind. In this case, it's the guy that was a celebrity and actor and TV entertainer forever. That's now the former president and possibly soon to be second Grover Cleveland, meaning the second U.S. president to have a split term. Okay, so yeah, sorry, that was a F- on the presentation, but we'll take it anyway, and we'll see if the callers can pick me up. And let me also switch over our volume so we can hear our callers clearly. 702.
Shalom, shalom, brother Zach. This is my second time calling in. Yeah, I appreciate everything you're doing. Wait, let me grab my notes.
For some reason, I realize on some of these calls, I don't know what it is about this platform. Some people's calls will come in perfectly clean, and then sometimes a person's call will be really staticky. And I realize it's not necessarily the phone from the person who's calling in, but I'm using this platform to have this call board. Your phone has a lot of static on it right now.
Hold on. I got my Bluetooth on. Let me turn it on. And then I'm going to try the speaker.
Well, here's what I was going to say. If that doesn't work, just call.
Oh, gosh. That's doing that. So let me,
just call.
Okay, I'm turning it off right now. Boom, it's done. All right. So now I'm going to speaker. Okay, how is that? Does it sound better?
It's better, but there is still some static. Go ahead. I think this is better. I think this will work.
Okay, well, I can turn the speaker off and then put the handset up to my ear.
Here, just do that. Here's what's worked in the past when we've had this situation. Usually when people call back, it's a lot more clear. So just call us right back. I'll take the next call, but then I'll let you cut in line and we'll take your call right after that one. So just give us a call right back.
Word up. And I've been waiting now for 55 minutes.
Yeah, so you exactly. I'll come right back to you. I'll come right back to you. Just give it a second and then call back, and I think it'll be clear because we've had this problem before. So thank you.
Word up. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. All right, let's go out to 7. Or hold on, I hit the wrong button. We'll come back to you, 971. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Let's go out to 772. They were next. 772.
Hello?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay. No, shit. Am I the only person on here?
No, you're not.
Yeah, you can go to somebody else first because I just got a bolt started.
Okay, all right. All right. Let's go out to 971. What's up, 971?
Is that me?
It's you.
This is LAF in Portland, Oregon, your hometown, our favorite son. Oh, yeah. Well, I've been on hold for quite a while, but I've been listening to a gross number of hours. And so I've forgot some of my points. But, you still keep sticking with the children. You still keep, talking about the fundamentals of the numbers. And, quite frankly, I just, I got to go with that. I know your philosophies because I've been listening to them for going on seven years. I know you've been on the airwaves for 10, and that's so admirable. But yeah, and I've called in a couple of times, and I'm not really good at it. But I really felt strongly about, making sure that you understood that there's so many people out here that are waiting and anxious for your information. In fact, you said earlier something about a big conversation, and I think that that's the jumping off point. And then, obviously I'm listening. Yeah. And there is way more going on than most of us know. So, you're going to have to talk to us like teenagers, Zachary, because it's pretty much all we've got. And that's what the G said. with regard to the United States of America behaving like teenagers, was quote, end quote. Yeah, I can't go there because I don't know who I'm talking to. But I know that you know what I mean, and I know that you understand that your work is just incredibly formidable, and we don't get it very often. People like you don't come around very often, and believe me, I've done the legwork.
Well, I appreciate the
we're
compliment.
privileged.
Friend, I'm going to let 702 get back on because they reconnected because they were waiting for a minute. So thank you.
Okay, Doc.
Take care. All right, 702 got back in, so hopefully we don't have any static. 702?
Shalom, shalom, brother Zach. I still have my speaker on. How does it sound?
For some reason, it's got static with your call. I don't know why that is. It does that to some people's calls.
Wait, let me turn the speaker on.
You're okay, though. Just go. We're just going to go with it. It's not as bad as it was before. We'll just go with it. Just go ahead. I'm listening.
Oh, gosh. I have such a great report. I took great notes, and I loved the caller before. At first, I was a little apprehensive. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? But then when he, got into details, I agree. The Gaza war, it's brought us all together. We can actually have a unity consciousness. Hold on one second. I'm just going to grab my notes. There they are. Okay. So you asked, how is it that we're going to bring everybody together? But I want to thank you, first and foremost, for bringing me back to Manly P. Hall. I want to say thank you for this. And Zach, I also want to let you know that everything that I'm saying right now, these are my notes that I took while you were giving your monologue. So I'm responding directly to what you've been saying because I take great notes. Even speaking about, is the glass half full? Okay, I have an absolute response for that. And for the last caller, Zach teaches English 501 classes. Once again, Zach teaches English 501 classes because this language, English, was given to us by the Vatican. There's no disputing that. The 1611, the King James, that comes to us from a series of things going on, but then you have 1620, where the Geneva Bible comes over on the Mayflower, and there's a whole contract involved with the Mayflower Compact contract, and that's 1620. And that's a translation from German into English, even though there was one back when Martin Luther put the 95 Theses up on the door of the St. Petersburg Basilica on Halloween 1517. So I'm very familiar with what's going on. And I want to roll with you, Zach. I don't want to cut this off, but I do want to say this one thing. Wait, let me go back to, is the glass half full or half empty? I had an opportunity to be a paraeducator in North Las Vegas, and I was basically a glorified substitute teacher for K through 8. I got a chance to work with kindergartners, first grade, second grade, third grade. I had my son at the time, and it was a blast. And I also have 9 years military experience, Zach. So when we talk Jesuits, we're talking military order. So the civilians, people that have never been in the military, there's a lot of blind spots, and that's why I'm here. I'm here for you, like C3PO.
Okay.
But is the glass half full or half empty? I'm going to say this and then finish up, because I do want to respond to Manifest Destiny, and also we say we a lot. We say we bomb this one, we bomb that one. Okay, so is the glass half full or half empty? Okay, that's the question. When we come back to elementary school, we know that matter exists in 3 stages: solid, liquid, gas. Solid, liquid, gas. So the idea of the glass being half full or half empty, what if we put a lid on it and then heated it up, and now it becomes gas? So is the glass half full or half empty? No, it's full because we have heated the water and turned it into steam. So now it fills the entire expanse of the container.
Right.
So
No,
is the
I like
glass
that
half
analogy
full
a
or half
lot.
empty?
I like that
Yeah.
analogy a lot. Yeah, because right now we're in liquid form. We got to get out of this liquid form. We got to get into the gas form. So.
Hey. Okay. Yes. You spoke about manifest destiny. Now I want to pause. In the so-called black culture, and I say so-called because I have receipts for when black happened to black people before it was Negro. This morning I read the Black Christian Slave Codes of 1724. Black Christian Slave Codes of 1724, and how ironic, we're in 2024 right now. So from 1724 to 2024, that's 300 years of blackness. And what's ironic, let me switch over. You spoke about, it wasn't Benjamin Franklin. Thomas, I think you said Thomas, okay, I think you said Benjamin Franklin. I'm going off my notes. You were talking about why homosexuals push, and they're opposite. They're like opposed. I think you talked about Thomas Jefferson, but Benjamin Franklin. Okay, so why are people gay right now? Because they're being manipulated to be gay by the Jesuit, Vatican, the money people, the city of London.
Like I was saying earlier,
and
for an agenda, because they want to reduce population. This is a real goal to do something about population. They really do have that intention. And again, all of their agendas come to that head if you just pay attention. It's all about population. And you realize for all the years promoting abortion to certain communities as they do too, that's definitely been about this population control. But please, go ahead.
No, absolutely. We have a document that we can reference called, it's the 1751 Increase of Mankind, Concerning the Increase of Mankind, written by Benjamin Franklin. 1751, Benjamin Franklin published a document called Concerning the Increase of Mankind. Okay? We live on Animal Farm. Literally, 1945 Animal Farm, George Orwell. I'm well versed in that particular novel by Orwell, and we are absolutely living through that. One example I'd like to give has to do with, now all the animals couldn't read on Animal Farm, but some of the animals on Animal Farm had the capacity to read, like the horses, as opposed to the pigs. Well, no, the pigs, they could read. That's why they were clicked up. And but the other animals, like the sheep couldn't read. The sheep, they were no good, but to say 4 legs good, 2 legs bad.
Right.
4 legs good, 2 legs bad. And Trump is squealer, because he can talk in white and black. But that's why I love Trump at the same time, because I love everything that God created. I have to find a way. And one of the greatest submissions that Trump gave us recently was that word smart. Because I guarantee you, I bet you $5 that I can give you a scripture in the Bible and ask you, well, what does the word smart mean in that context? And not only would you not know it, but a lot of people would know it. And I don't say that to be in competition with you. I would like to be in league with you, but I would like to qualify myself. I published a book in 2017 called The Science of Fiction Dialectic. Dialectic is another word for technology. Once again, dialectic is another word for technology. People don't realize what we're doing in these chat rooms when we're on YouTube. We're actually performing a dialectic, which is what the pig vomit, I call them pig vomit, is the elites, because they're not really doing anything new. They're just doing what their grandfathers and great-grandfathers gave. the problem is we have to increase our literacy. We have to increase our literacy. And I've been doing that for 24 years. Within the last 10 years, since 2014, it's been about 55,000 hours. But I published in 2017 the Science of Fiction Dialectic, and I'm going to send it to you, Zach. Yeah, that's going to be the next thing. Look for your PO box. I'm going to when I get off the phone today, I'm gonna arrange for it. I need to order some of my books. But what I would like to say and announce to everyone here is that I solved the Pythagorean theorem using trigonometry in 2017. I just didn't think anybody was interested in it, but I knew people were interested in it. But it wasn't until about a year ago when there was two young ladies, Jackson and Johnson. They were 17 years old. They had a challenge, a math contest, where the challenge was, can you find another way to solve for Pythagorean's theorem? And they were able to use trigonometry. They created an equation that creates a waffle cone. And I never thought to call it a waffle cone when I did what I did in 2017. And you can look my book up on Amazon. Anybody that's like questioning, like, who is this guy? Like, he's BSing. It's called The Science of Fiction Dialectic. It's on Amazon.com. Zach, and I'm going to say this, and you'll definitely resonate with it. First in line, first in time. So I'm absolutely a time traveler.
Sure.
And I appreciate everything that you do. And time travel is also recognized within Judaism. It's called Hafitzat Haderek. I don't speak a full Aramaic. I don't speak full Hebrew, but I know some words. Hafitzat Haderek. For people that say, oh, time travel, you talking about time travel? I was like, no, you don't know Judaism, because that's the order of the day. Let me turn my notes over. Holy Ghost. It's right here. The order of the day is that we must embrace Jewish history. You say, how? Oh, we have to embrace Jewish history. I've studied Kabbalah since 2012. I know all the 11 Sephiroth, or all the 11 crowns. And I'll wait for your response. I got this. I got it. Okay.
What do you want me to respond to?
Well, you say, how are we going to fix this? What is it that we're supposed to be doing to make the world better? Being the change we want to see in the world, we have to study Jewish history. There are Jewish history in 1 hour videos done by a archbishop out of, I think he's from Germany. And it's Jewish history in 1 hour. Now's the time for us to learn as much about Jewish history as we can, regardless of anyone's apprehensions or I don't know any reason why they may be hesitant. I didn't grow up Christian. I grew up Muslim in America, and that was a bit difficult because America is very racist. And what's going on in Gaza is just an example to show us that, America is still very racist. Mm-hmm. I heard Judge Janine say on Fox News recently, she said, what are you, a Hamas lover? That's the same thing as an in lover. You hear me? So America is still very racist. What are you, a Hamas lover? These people don't have an army. And the Likud party, which is who Bibi Netanyahu, Mr. I'm back on 12/29, okay, which coincides with Albert Pike, and I've been reading Albert. Oh, I'm going to say this and I'm going to stop. I got just a few more sentences. Is that I've been reading Morals and Dogma, Scottish Rite Freemasonry for the last, I picked it back up. I've had it for over 10 years, but I just picked it back up and I said, okay, Zach is talking about some things, and this thing with this Gaza, and then he comes back in, and, if he doesn't keep going to war, then he's going to get arrested. So, of course, he's going to keep bombing. If he can get these guys, these psychopaths and sociopaths, to keep going on with their brainwashing, he's got to stay in. But that's the birthday of Albert Pike.
Right.
And I actually have a picture, because I went on my quest a few years ago, but I did take a picture in front of the statue of Albert Pike in Washington, D.C., the only Confederate general to have a statue, by the way. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I've been talking about that all I've been I know you must not see I've been talking about it all year while he came back on Pike's birthday, and I've been talking about when they tore down the Pike statue on Juneteenth, June 19, 2020, 201 days before January 6th, and why they did all that like a gazillion times. So, yeah, I'm very aware about the Pike statue and the ritual they did with that, and the Confederate symbolism, and why the Confederate flag flew 201 days later in D.C., and they keep showing that and talking about January 6th, and they won't let it go, and that day can be written 6/1 like 61, like the American Civil War began in 1861. So, yeah, again, all this stuff is little tributes to how they recreate history and keep us stuck on the same divisions, at least the way I see it. I want to go back to something you said a second ago, though. You said to solve the problems of today, the answer is to study Jewish history. So what is it in studying Jewish history that would help solve the problems of the day about bringing up the discussions? Like, how does that go together?
Okay. Well, the Jewish people today are human shields for the Israeli government. There's no doubt about it. Mossad, their motto is, by deception, we will wage war. All Americans have seen over the last 7 months during this genocide, this bloodbath, how deceptive they actually intend to be, because that's what they do. I believe the James Bond movies were made to glorify their activities around the world.
Exactly. Intelligence
another
agents.
thing I want to say,
Yeah, absolutely.
Get Smart, the TV show. Remember, you have Maxwell Smart, you have Agent 80, what's her, 89? She was fine too. I'm darker skinned, but I don't discriminate, and she was fine. And then you have Jaime, the robot. Jaime the robot. That's them. That's the Israelis. Jaime.
Sure. Sure.
It's interesting the way all this stuff works out. So yeah, get smart. Oh, and I also have some smoke for the word smart. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 15. Do you mind if I read the scripture?
Go ahead.
Okay. This is Proverbs chapter 11, verse 15, King James Version. He that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it, but he that hateth suretyship is sure. I can repeat it again if you like. It's Old English, and I know that people aren't as avid about English as I am. I'm a what do you call it? I speak English fluently. Yeah, I said, am I learn Spanish? Am I learn German? No, I'm gonna speak the language that I was taught in my K through 12, and I'm gonna become fluent with this.
Sure. If you want to read it one more time, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, this is out of my mind. I memorized this back in 2015. He that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it, but he that hateth suretyship is sure. Hey, shalom. How you doing? 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
I got it for you. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, no, it's my landlord handling business. But yeah, he that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it, but he that hateth suretyship is sure. Nobody knows what smart means. The Christians do not know what the word smart means. When you go back to the Hebrew, it means bad, evil, and punishment. Bad, evil, punishment. That's what smart means in Hebrew. There you go. All right, thank you so much. How you doing today? Okay, yeah. Hey, like a booger? Hanging in there? Like a booger? No. You're hanging in there like a booger. It's a joke. Okay. All right, now. We'll see you soon. Shalom. Okay. Excuse me.
Okay, you're back.
But, huh?
You're back.
No, we good now. I'm back. Yeah. Yeah, she was supposed to come over on Friday to get the ring. So, but anyhow, it happened now. But yeah. Smart. It means something that's deep. And then when we look at that word smart, the way it's crept in all the subtle places all around us.
Like
And
these
smart
phones.
meters,
These
smart
phones.
water,
These phones.
smart TVs.
Yeah, exactly. The technology.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Just smartphones. Everyone's.
Boom.
Yeah. Meaning bad makes a lot of sense. I thought these things were bad since they came. I tried not to get one of these forever. I didn't get a smartphone, I think, until, well, it's been over a decade now, but they came out in 2006. I don't think I had one until like 2012-ish, but I just saw from the beginning that it was bad. And when it came out, it just reminded me about what we learned about in high school. And when I was in high school at the start of the 2000s, we had to read some excerpt from our current events class about Bill Gates talking about the future and how we'll all have this handheld device that will do almost everything through. And I mean, this is part of the reason, like in the 21st century,
90 seconds.
people have gotten so obese too. It's just like we're always in front of a screen. We're sitting on our butt instead of interacting like with friends and family in person like we used to. We're interacting with them while sitting down through a screen or a smartphone. Yeah, all this smart stuff's been bad for us. It makes it so like we don't even use our own brains. Just everything's automated and too easy. But go ahead. Hello?
Yeah, so, yeah, I
60
I have
seconds.
my phone on mute. Because Zach, I can listen to you for hours speak. So now the time that I'm speaking with you, we're playing tennis. I like how Jordan Peterson created a space where when he goes on podcasts, he does that long form, and he talks to the host and he says, "Let's play." So I would love to play for as long as you like. I don't want to take up too much time, but the word "smart" is so important because everyone they think they know what it means, but when you go back to the good book, the cookbook, there's so many people wrong. Hey.
10 seconds.
No, I don't even really turn it on. Not really. Like, yeah, I work in a freezer. So when I'm out of the freezer and it's like hot out, like I turn the fan on and like wipe it down and stuff, and it ain't been that hot for me to turn the AC on.
Okay, so
But I do use a heater in the winter.
in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So in the front, there's a little panel right there. It's talking on the side of it. There's a little black filter.
Here, we'll come back to him. He's obviously talking to the landlord. Let's go out to 559. 559, you're on.
Hey, Zach. I got a question for you. Do you think that people's gematria is encoded at birth, or do you think that it's encoded when they like sell their soul to the Freemasons doing an oath or something?
I don't follow exactly what you mean.
Well, like you're running people's codes. Like somebody's son dies, and you say it's by the code. Do you think that person's son was like born to die like that?
Like how we just saw the UFC fighter lose his child Kobe after 15 months when Kobe equals 15. Yeah, I do think a lot of that's going on in show business. It goes to the Oval Office. It's like JFK losing his child right before he gets assassinated on the day, leaving 144 days left in the year, and then he's shot 144 days from meeting with the Pope, and then his brother's dead at 1:44 a.m. in 1968. Now his son gets in the race 144 days after the Superior General's birthday. So your question about do I think it's this or that, those are two of potentially a billion scenarios that something could be explained. But again, I get a lot of the same questions over and over. I always go back to the story I had from driving around a man named Kirby who explained to me that, he was aware of... Huh?
Do you think your code is... Do you want
me to answer the question you just asked me, or do you just want... I'm sorry.
Pre-coded?
I'm sorry. Okay. Like, that guy... Sorry, I'm just getting rid of that caller. I'm answering your question. You're just going to start asking me another question in the middle of? It's like... that's what's wrong with people. It's like they call in and then they don't listen and they're just babbling and it's a besides the point question. But yeah, there are people that name their children by the code. Like I said, I met an older man named Kirby who used to work for the Kennedys who shed a little light on this. So yeah, some people are named accordingly. Now, does the UFC fighter realize that when he's told to give his child the name Kobe, that it's going to die 15 months later? That I don't know the answer to, but that's obvious. It's obvious that that's what's going on in show business. I mean, they've told us in 10,000 different ways. This information shows what's going on day after day. So, all right, let me see if 702 is done with his landlord. Actually, hold on. We'll give 702 a minute because he might be with the landlord. Let's go to the other people who are waiting on hold. Let's go out to 424. 424. 424. They might have fallen asleep. All right, they are not there. Let's go out to 772.
Hey, Zach, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
Hello?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, it's me. Truth does not exist. Yeah, I agree with a lot of the stuff that you were saying. You were talking about these fat teachers setting an example for children. I have personal experience. So when I was a child, this was like 11 years ago. I had this teacher, and she was a big, fat, huge, nasty lady, and she actually had a heart attack while I was in that classroom. She didn't have a heart attack there, but she had a heart attack like while she was my teacher, and she was in the hospital for like a month. And like she would always eating unhealthy foods, and I think that you were talking about gluttony. I think that it's really a part of the culture, not really just in food, but in everything. Right now I'm working on a computer from 2005 that, it still works fine, and like I can still get it to do something. And there's so many people that they just throw away their old devices into the trash and nobody gets to use them. I can't tell you how many devices I've gotten from the trash that work just fine, that with a little bit of cleaning, it's, as good as new. And, people just waste, and they're always buying stuff that, nobody cares about helping other people. A lot of people where I'm at, let's say if somebody has a television or something, whatever, they buy new ones that they don't need, this wasting hundreds of dollars, on like something that they don't need at all. And then just being so wasteful. It's like, throwing away electronic devices that, when you leave these devices in landfills, they cause pollution and leach all these toxic chemicals into our water supply, into the food supply, and people just don't care. They just blindly consume, and they just take and take and take and waste and waste and waste. It's basically like a shredder, that they just they consume all this stuff, and they don't give anything back, to society. And I think that we just see it like in all aspects of life. And you were talking about the news, and that that's another thing that I have. You were talking about kids not going outside anymore, and that's something that I can relate to as a child. I grew up in the post 9/11 era of people being so them just putting the fear and in all these mothers. Like my mom was very restrictive. I couldn't go outside because she was scared that I would be kidnapped. She was scared that I would be bitten by animals. She was scared that I was going to get eaten by a crocodile. And that she was mainly scared that I was going to be kidnapped. That she was always saying, about, oh no, you can't go, oh, never walk away from me, and all this stuff. Oh no, you can't go like 2 houses down because you might get kidnapped. And and it's just something that. Oh, is someone calling you?
It's sweet lady. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. They just put the fear in all these people, and I couldn't, and it's, you see it now. I see when I walk outside in the neighborhoods, I never see any children outside, and I mean, it's really a not a good situation to be in. It does suck. I don't really look back fondly on my childhood, but I think that I see a lot of children like this are just inside video games. When I was a kid, the thing for you was Full House. For me, it was Five Nights at Freddy's. Everybody, nobody wanted to play outside the few times that I could. People were like, oh, I want to play Five Nights at Freddy's. I want to play Minecraft or, whatever other game. And, we see how they do it. They just divide people. They want people, not being friends with each other. They don't want people not having community. They want people to be, just out for themselves. And everybody's just connected to all this technology. And I think that the technology is a double-edged sword. Like I don't have any grudge against technology. I love technology. And it's funny that everybody has a smartphone. They call these things smartphones, but it's actually the dumbest device that you have. At least for me, I use technology all day long, but I barely touch my phone because it's just such a restrictive, small device that it's just hard to do things in. It's hard to be productive. It's hard to do anything useful. It's very locked down. I can only install these apps that are blessed by, big tech, that they say that it's okay to download this app or, this application. And Apple especially is the most restrictive company, even on their computers. But, I use computers a lot, and, it's a very free device that I can install all kinds of programs and work on the hardware and whatever. But anyways, I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. These devices, I use the computer for good. In school, I really wasn't. I would get a lot of A's, but because the school was really easy. But I would also cheat a lot, and I would, I was homeschooled online, on the computer. So I did all my schooling online, and usually I was just I was just cheating on everything, and I was barely doing any school. And I mean, now I dropped out. I don't even have a high school diploma. But I've always, in that time, I wasn't wasting time on, watching useless stuff. I was always learning about stuff. I was learning about quantum mechanics and, how electronic circuits work and, how the internet, how computers work, all this stuff. And, I know more about a lot of knowledge than 99% of people that not only completed high school, which I haven't even done, but also people that have went to college, people that have, gotten all these degrees and all this stuff. And, I know more than them because I've used the internet to my advantage. It's like the internet does something that nothing else can do, which is the reason why they restrict it so much, is that the internet can connect us with the whole world, Because of the internet, you can make videos about these Jesuits, you can expose this stuff, you can write all these books. And even though I've never met you before, I've never seen you in person, and you're all the way across the country, 3,000 miles away from me, I can find this information and I can benefit from it, and I can use it to better myself. And there's so many other things. There's so much knowledge. I mean, I've been able to learn how to build computers because of
Here,
the
I just want to stop.
And
I just want to stop real quick. No, it's great, and you're making a great point, and I've always said the same thing. That's why the school system they keep us in a school system that's from the 1800s. It's not the 1800s anymore. We have all this technology. Again, imagine if school was kind of at the beginning, children get the building blocks of life. They're learning some good values. They're learning how to read and write. But then quickly, once you get past that elementary stage, now you say, listen, you guys are all individuals, people. What are some things that you really like right now as an individual? The education can be okay, based on these things that they're into, this would be a great way to help them advance their understanding of this subject and allow them to research it, but kind of give them some guiding things here, you might want to learn about these things because someday when you're your parents' age, you could do this for, you know what I mean? They try to turn everybody into a cookie cutter type of thing with the school system. It can be a lot less school, a lot more freedom, and just a lot more helping people get to the right avenues that they need to be in that align with their interests. If you can see from a young age that somebody's destined to be a doctor or these types of things, you could start showing them how to independently research these things. And again, imagine it's not on a system where you have to wait until you're 18 to do it. Imagine it's more of a free system. It's listen, when you demonstrate that you have these competencies and can, again, everybody doesn't need to go through school at the same age. Some people's brains develop at different rates than others, and some children are slower, some catch up later. But again, yeah, we have all these tools, and we don't need to be just putting everybody through the same meat grinder that the public education system is. And we could allow a lot more freedom and also teach at a young age, like why you want to be motivated, why you want to go out and be independent, why it's better to not have to have a teacher tell you your whole life what to do, because then you might grow up to be an adult and you don't know how to do anything independently without being told what to do. And that's why there are so many workers for the Walmarts of the world. These are the people who never learned how to do anything besides exactly what they were told to do. And that's why their life ends up as the clerk at Walmart. Again, that's what our system actually wants, though, because they need clerks at Walmart. So anyway, but yeah, you're doing a great job, and you do make a lot of great points. So yeah, I do got to wrap it up though. Sweet lady, I didn't take her call, but she's giving me the text messages and instructions for what needs to happen. So anyway, I do got to wrap this thing up. If you want to close out your thought, go ahead, but try to make it efficient.
Okay. Speaking of the technology, I figured out a way to like make a video platform for you that like, you know, you could like upload all your videos to, and like other people can create accounts, like its own video platform, and also that people can do live streaming. And it's like it's its own website. It has its own domain. You know, and it doesn't cost $1 million to make, or $1 million a month. I can do it myself, you know, and it wouldn't even take that long to do. I was going to call you. I called to you about that yesterday, but you didn't pick up. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know about that. But on what I was saying, you know, you can just stop me when you got to go. But you know,
well, like I said, I do got to go. So I try to make it efficient.
Okay. You know, when I was younger, that you were talking about school. When I was younger, they were always teaching about like Christopher Columbus, and you know this, you know, useless information and this useless information, and like telling me like, you know, to write a paper about Joey going to whatever, you know, and it was just really stupid stuff that was very easy for me. And it was just useless. Like none of that information I've used now. I don't even remember.
All right, you know you're preaching to the choir with this one. You know you're preaching to the choir with this one. This sounds like the same type of stuff I've talked about for 10 years straight. But yeah, exactly. The school system it wastes a lot of our time, no doubt about it. And okay, yeah, I appreciate it.
With the education, yeah, like.
All right, keep up the good work. Keep it up. Appreciate it.
Anyway, I'll go.
All right, and let me let 702 finish because we had to switch away. He got interrupted. 702, if you want to wrap up your thoughts too, I do got to get moving, but I know you got interrupted with the landlord there. $702. He might have stepped away too. He might no. Are you there, 702? All right, he stepped away. It's okay. All right, yeah. So anyway, this stream, if you guys got here late, again, I was like talking to a muted mic for 3 minutes, like I did the other day, and the reason that's happening is because Streamyard has apparently changed a setting where sometimes the video just starts on mute, which it never was before. So I don't know why that's doing that all of a sudden. It's just like what. What is the point of even changing a feature like that? You know that's just going to screw people up. Normally, by default, it's not on mute. But, yeah, so anyway. And then once I realized that, then I was in the struggle of, like, talking about things without trying to repeat what I said in the first 3 minutes. And it made me even more tangential than ever. So, in a way, this might... I don't know. I don't know how the stream was overall. It felt like it was a disaster delivering it because I kept losing my train of thought. But shout out to the people who supported anyway. Shout out to Amy, too. Amy, I'm still waiting on that phone call. I'd like to talk to you, please. Thank you, Paula the Kitchen Witch, for always doing that. Very nice of you. And thank you as well, Rick James, for constantly doing that. I appreciate that. And shout out to Frank the Truth Tank, always generous. Always sharing the knowledge on his Facebook page. Find Frank. If you search Gematria, you will find Frank on Facebook. Shout out to Con Diesel 90, chipped in 10. Thank you very much. He said, colleges are businesses and all Sales are final. After all those years, they give you a receipt to hang on your wall, display. Thanks for all you do, brother. Yeah, I mean, there are some of those pieces of paper you can get that can lead to a lucrative career, but then a lot of times you might end up feeling like, I don't know, if you have a conscience, you might realize like, am I selling my soul to maintain this well-paying job? It's funny how many well-paying jobs kind of like, it's not actually good what those people are doing. It's funny how the whole system's made that way. It's like, that's the test. Will you sell out for the money? But yeah, again, and here's the other point I would just want to make about college while we're just talking about everything and governments and revolutions and taxes. Again, for all of my life, you listen to conservative talk radio, and this isn't about a conservative liberal thing, but a conservative law is talking about, oh, we don't want to be like those socialists over there in Europe. We don't want to be like those socialists over there in Europe. I just always got annoyed listening to that because to me it's just such a crap talking point. So it's like, well, when I look at Europe, people are looking better, first of all. They're looking a lot better over there in those socialist countries. They look like a bunch of fat blobs. I remember over there in socialist Europe, they were keeping out the GMO food trash and all the processed sugar products for a long time. A lot of stuff. A lot of countries will not even allow stuff to be sold that's on American shelves. Japan's like, hell no, we don't allow that over here. Not trying to die from diabetes in your 30s. But again, that socialist Europe over there, remember, they pay like this much more taxes than us, which means almost nothing, like a little itty bitty. They pay a little itty bitty bit more in taxes. But then for that itty bitty more, that big socialist extra fee, they get all of their secondary education paid for, pretty much all of their health care paid for. It's like, seems like a lot better deal because almost everyone I know in America is way in debt from college, has major medical problems, huge medical bills. So you mean to tell me we were just paying a tiny bit more in taxes? We wouldn't have to have all this crazy debt for school and big pharma? Oh, so that's why just the whole political divide is just like, I swear to God, the whole conservative thing for all of my adult life, the whole liberal thing, it's like, let's see if we can keep these people in these camps, just keeping them in total ignorance, in like a total state of moronic, I can't find the right words for it, but just ignorance. It's like, wait a minute, is it so bad to be? Because, I mean, it looks to me like it's better to be in socialist Europe. Like on all levels. Healthier, better quality of life. Like over there, it's just a common thing. Like somebody has a baby, they get 3 months off, all paid. Because they want to make sure the mother and the child get off to a good start so they grow up to be healthy stock in the society. Kind of makes sense if you're going to pay taxes and have luxuries to make your life better, to actually get some of those things. In America, we just pay a lot of taxes and we get almost nothing. You know, you got to pay for Ukraine and Israel and this war over there and that war over there and God knows what else. You know, Halliburton, Boeing, they need another military contract so their share value can stay at $400 a share or whatever. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I've always, again, I've never gotten the political thing, but I just see like how and then it's like that's part of the thing too. Like in America, it's like some people think they have to just be totally against the corporations and for the government. And then some people think they just have to be for the corporations and against the government. It's like there's really a balance in all things. I'd rather not have a big federal government either. But like, again, government should just be simple. Our Constitution should be like a page long with just like undeniable truths that everyone can agree to. And if there does have to be some form of taxation because of things like roads and having a hospital in a town, again, these things could be done and not in an evil and corrupt way. Because we had taxpayer dollars to build the hospital, it doesn't need to turn into a place where it's all about marketing pharmaceuticals and doing shady work so that certain people can have big profits. Like, it doesn't need to be that way. It's like, okay, we used our tax money to build a hospital, and we actually did get the best and brightest young minds or maybe not, it could be older, just best. We got the people in our community that want to be a doctor. See, that's the thing too. Think about this, you guys. Think about if you lived in a world where like the currency was just like being a pillar in your community. Imagine you could live in a world where you got recognized for being a good person in your community and really helping out community. And that, again, imagine an agricultural world Everyone's kind of on the same playing field. They're growing their food. They're living together. They're exchanging this and that. You grew this crop over here. We grew this crop over here. But a community that works together. If you had a really bright mind come up in that community and he learned to be a doctor and read literature and actually practice medicine and help out the people in his town. Back in the day, that's the way somebody became a doctor, because they demonstrated that they had the skills to heal people, to serve them in a time of crisis. And it wasn't that they got paid $1 gazillion. They weren't super rich from being a doctor. They did it because they actually wanted to help people. I always make the point about how our school system could be like that. Again, let's say we're on the socialist Europe system, you get your college paid for. I mean, the best and brightest mind's going to be on his way at a young age to becoming a young doctor. But again, I'm not trying to advocate for a world either where I'm just trying to make points about how people paint things black and white, but really you can look at all things and say, like, there's something good to be taken from that. How can we replicate that here and make sure it doesn't get corrupted and turn into what it did become? You listen to a guy like Ralph Nader. Ralph Nader's a guy who once believed in government and then spent the rest of his life speaking against it because he helped create all these agencies in government. If you guys don't know who Ralph Nader is, look it up. He used to run for president. He's the reason that we supposedly have seatbelts in cars. But he got a lot of notoriety when he was a younger man, young attorney, the attorney of the people. But he says that he hates his whole legacy because he helped create all this extra government bureaucracy that he thought was actually going to serve people, but all it turned into was corrupt power that made things even worse. And so, I mean, that's the lesson of government. Like, you can go in there with all the right intentions, but as long as the things that plague the world exist, like greed and power, which will always be here because they're bad qualities that exist in humans that have to be controlled. And again, what's the way you control them? By raising people the right way, so you have a lot less of a chance of a percentage of somebody just becoming a tyrannical dictator because they can, and it makes their life better and they don't care about anyone else. But anyway, yeah, this is the problem. We have this society where things are based on power and status and money, and if it was just like the old world where money... Again, think about it. There was a time when our ancestors left there and money didn't even exist. People just traded. So, here's my skills. Here's my daughter. Daughters wouldn't like that today. Here, you can have my beautiful daughter because we need that food to keep the rest of the family alive. Sorry, daughter. No, I mean, maybe that's the sad part of the old world, just shipping off your daughter for a bag of wheat. But I doubt that happened too much. I mean, people love each other. I'm sort of just being facetious and making jokes, but yeah, just if we had a world that wasn't all about money and it was just about living and having quality food and being healthy. I mean, here's how simple I could be, because I like how... I'm starting to get neighbors here that are from my generation and older, and then they talk. I have these younger people that moved in, like these rich spoiled kids. Man, they just live in their house all day. They're super awkward. But now I got some people that moved in the neighborhood that are like my age, and it's nice because it's like you can have a nice conversation. And I'm finding out my neighbors my age, they think this stuff is mind blowing. So I'm like, see, we just got to get this out to the right people because these people are understanding it. I'm taking this guy off Donald Trump in 5 seconds. He's like, oh, really? He's like, God, man, I thought Trump was the one. He's like, you got me thinking about it now. So anyway, I don't even know how I got on that tangent, but hey, it's nice to... I was making the point about, I just wish I had a community of people to hang around with and talk to and have a nice conversation and joke with. And I mean, like, if the only entertainment in the whole thing was playing cornhole, throwing the beanbag in the hole, that would be enough for me because that'd be fun. But I wish life was that way. I've always thought that way since I was young. I was like, I just wish every day could be like when my family gets together for Thanksgiving and I play with my cousins and we have games and everyone's laughing and having a nice time. Because it was just so rare to be around family. It only happened for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And it's like this for a lot of Americans because everybody's on the slave grind and the 13 years of slave school and their parents are at the slave job. And the only time you have to get together is when they give us those big holidays at the end of the year. But I just realized, like, as I grew up, I was like, man, this is how our ancestors used to be all the time because they lived around each other, they worked together, they had family. It was just about keeping a roof over your head and a supply of food. It was, like, simple, but it was also the way it was supposed to be. It's like you look at all the nature around us that still exists, which is almost none. Nature, it's out there... Damn, I forgot I was supposed to get off and now I'm getting tangential again, but like nature hasn't changed. The bird's still flying around. He's not like flying around with a Facebook virtual reality headset, and the squirrels aren't getting all fat in front of the mini flat screens playing the latest PlayStation or Xbox. It's just like they're just existing like how they're supposed to be in nature. Birds are still out there in the spring chasing each other around. You see the bird romance and they're flying around in the circles. But now it's like humanity, man. It's like we don't even look like human beings. We look like blobs. We look like the characters from WALL-E. But yeah, colleges, the whole system's a business. We're born into a business. They put a stamp on us. They expect us to become a profitable tax instrument, a useful idiot. It will just march along. So yeah, we got to shut down this corrupt business that rules over us. Thank you, Con Diesel 90. 863 Kane, thank you very much for the 10. I appreciate that. Said appreciate all the work you do. You're very welcome. I appreciate your generosity. And then the young guy told you to stop giving me super chats. I don't want you to give me any more super chats. I want you to save your money. There's older people in this world that could help us out. Ralph Nader once wrote a book that said only the super rich can save us. Some super rich people to back us up. Must be some super rich people are like, all right, he's proven for 10 years he'll go out there every day. He can speak publicly. He can drop facts every day. Even in his worst live stream, it's not that bad. We need some super rich people to help us out. We need Gematria Effect News. Gematria Effect Publishing. We need an army of people to counter what this army of tyrants in media and other places do every day to us. There has to be a group of people working just as hard, figuring out a way to get just as much recognition. You said, you know about those European baddies? I don't know. That must be the new lingo. But yeah, anyhow, we'll leave it there for now, True Seeker. Thank you to everyone who hits the like and the share. Shout out to King Henry. Our man King Henry, man, he's just about fed up with America. Like, where is the right place in this world to go to? Remember, you guys, though, it's a new world order. I don't know if you can run away from it. It's like you got to figure out where the community of people is who's going to stand up against it and stop it. You got to stop it. All right, True Seeker, I do got to wrap it up. Again, thank you to everyone who supports the work. Thank you to everyone who hits the like and the share. And until next time, True Seeker.